Okay, so professors, we are trying to overcome this concept of correction of errors and suspense account. So far, we have been very comfortable with knowing what errors are, the types of errors, actually 2 types of errors. And then we have been able to fully discuss the first type, which is errors that do not affect the agreement of the trial balance. I think we've gone through omission, commission principle, duplication, complete reversal of entries, original entry, compensation, and duplication. I want to believe you remember how to correct each of them, because that is very important. Now, today, I want us to look at how you prepare the journal to correct these errors. And then we'll look at the second type of error, which is errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. Then we can now begin solving illustrations. Last Friday, I urged all of you to go back to review the double entry principle. And I want to believe you did that judiciously. So in correcting errors, you need a journal, the general journal. So normally this is how you go about it. With the title journal, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. The date or number is the first column. So where the errors are dated, you use the date. If it is numbered, use the numbers. Okay. Then you have your details or particulars, so you can choose any of them. Then you have the debit column and the credit column. So when you do the analysis, or if you recall, when we do the analysis, it's either we have to debit this account and correspondingly credit another account. Now, in preparing the journal, the account to be debited must always come first. So the account to be debited should always come first. After that, the account to be credited follows. But you can see here that it is slightly indented away from the line where the account to be debited started. Okay, this is the point I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make. See, you see some indentation here. So they shouldn't be on the same. That will be, you'll be losing some precious market. So always indent away from the account that has been debited. Okay. If you ask me why, I think it's for presentation's sake, to make your presentation look more presentable. And then finally, you put a narration. Now, what is a narration? A narration is a brief or a summary of the error corrected. Okay. A summary of the error corrected. So if you know the type of error, you can write it there and as the summary. Some also prefer summarizing the transaction or the error that was given in there. Then when we begin solving examples, you appreciate, but this is how you prepare the journal. Okay, so if you have about 7 errors, you go to number 1, do the debits and credits, add the summary or narration. You go to number 2 and do save. Okay, now the summary is compulsory unless otherwise stated by the examiner that ignore narration. If not, you have to add narration. Okay. Now let's go to the second type of error. But I guess I should give you the benefit of doubt to recall or review a few things on the errors that do not affect. Omission, I want to believe you remember what we said and how to correct it. Original entry, compensation, etc. Now let's go to the errors that affect the second one. The errors that affect the agreement of the travel. Please, at any point, if you have a question, feel free to ask for more clarification. So what are these errors? Let me appoint one of the professors to do the reading for me. Who is going to do that? Prof. Moroni, please can you do the reading for me on errors that affect the trial balance agreement?
Okay, sir. Errors that affect the trial balance agreement. These errors make the trial balance and such contributes to the suspense in the trial balance. Hence, in correcting these errors, the suspense account may be debited or credited. One,
Okay.
single entry.
Okay, so
This is where
hold
only
on
one
there
side of
for
the
me.
transaction has
Yes.
been recorded. To correct this error, pass the corresponding entry.
Okay, thank you. So, profs, unlike the first type of error where the trial balance would not show any difference, in this type of error, the trial balance will show a difference. So these errors are easily to identify because the trial balance will tell you that there is an error, right? Okay. So we are going to look at examples of these errors that makes the trial balance, disagree. The first one is single entry. Single entry. Because I want to believe you appreciate the double entry, and this will be the opposite of double entry. So what is single entry? This is where, or this error occurs when only one side of the transaction has been recorded. Only one side of the transaction has been recorded. In other words, the bookkeeper did the debits only and didn't do the corresponding credit. Or the bookkeeper did the credit and didn't do the corresponding. So I hope you get a picture. Single entry means that the bookkeeper did only one side of the double entry. So if I'm to give an example, it says payment of rent 160 has only been recorded in the rent account. Now let's get a picture. If you pay rent, okay, if you pay rent, you would agree with me that you have to debit rent account and credit cash account so that when you construct your trial balance, you have a balance for cash, okay, and then you also have a balance for rent. Now you would debit the rent, so you would have a debit of 160 and you credit who? The cash 160. This is just an example, so don't get confused that cash is having a credit balance. But in this transaction, cash is going to be credited. So if we were extracting a trial balance with just this trial balance, or with this transaction, sorry, then we are going to have cash 160 and rent 160. However, if the bookkeeper, as it is stated here, only recorded it in rent, then it means that if you prepare the trial balance, you would only have the debit for the rent 160, but you will not have the corresponding credit for the cash. So if you were to balance your trial balance, you would have 160 debit and your credit will be 0. Why? Because the other side of the transaction was not recorded. And so that is why this error, as you can see, is making the trial balance disagree. Please, do you get a picture?
Yes, sir.
So that is error of single entry. Okay, so depending on the transaction that is given you, you'd have to report. And then I mentioned to you that when this happens, so because, let me make this thing bigger for you to see. So this is your trial balance. Because of the single entry, you only have rent in your trial balance 160. So at the time that you are preparing the trial balance, you saw that your credit side is having nothing. So to make it balance, you put a suspense account. So suspense of what? 160 added credit. Remember I said suspense account is used to record any difference. So when we see that difference, we'll put the suspense in there to make our trial balance work agree. Then we go and investigate. So you see that after investigation, you realize that, oh, it was the cash that was not credited. That is why we are having a difference in the trial balance. So how then would you correct it? Now let me go back and draw you along. We paid rent, right? And we only recorded it in rent account. What it means that we didn't record in the cash account, right? So to correct this error, it means that we need to now credit who? Cash. Now, when you credit cash, the corresponding debit entry would have to go to which account? The suspense account, to remove it from there. Because as it stands now, if you look at this trial balance, okay, this is what you have. You have rent, debit of 160, okay, and then you have suspense, credit of what? 160. Now, we do the investigation and realize that this credit of 160 in suspense account is supposed to be in what? Cash account. So what do? We are going to open the cash account and credit it. So cash, open cash, credit it 160. And the corresponding entry goes to where? Suspense 160. Why? Because now we have seen what is causing the error. So we have to cancel suspense. So you see that immediately you pass that entry of credit cash, debit suspense. Suspense will go up, and then if you are to redraft your trial balance, you have rent 160 and then cash 160. So professors, the core point I want you to get is that for single entry errors, single entry errors, these are errors where the bookkeeper has only recorded just one side of the double entry. So for you to correct it, you have to pass the corresponding entry which the accountant failed to pass. Okay, when you do that, you would have to now remove whatever you put in suspense there. So another corresponding entry will go to where? The suspense account. Okay. So in this example, as I gave here, if you were to prepare your journal, right, you debit suspense as we saw 160, and then you credit the cash 160. And I think I've used the T account to make you appreciate. Now let's go to the second example of this errors that affect the trial balance. Let me appoint one of you to do the reading for me. I think today I'm going more with the gentleman. Prof. Aseda also, can you read casting errors for us? Okay, because of time, I don't know, maybe his microphone is not set up. Prof. Kujo, can you read casting errors for us?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
These casting errors, that is either overcasting or undercasting of a day book, an account, ledger, or an amount. To correct this error, first, ascertain the balance on the item that has been overcasted, that has been overcast or undercast.
Okay, thank you very much. So yes, Prof. Aseda just indicated in the chat that his microphone is malfunctioning. Okay. So Profs, the second type of errors, or the second example of errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance, casting errors, casting. Now, casting simply means you are, adding or you are summing up something, right? So we are saying whilst you are doing the addition or summation, you can make a mistake. Now, this mistake can be over or under. So where you overstate it, then it is overcast. Where you understate it, it is under. Right? Okay. Why would this error affect the agreement of the trial balance? Because you see, this is at the point where probably you are, what do you call it? You are balancing of individual accounts. So let's say you have prepared your T account. And again, let me use an example here. Please, I'm taking my time to explain each error before we start solving the illustration so that you appreciate it better. Okay. So let's say you have a transaction where you debited cash and credited sales. Right? So sales and cash. So let's say we had 2 transactions. All of them were cash sales. So for cash sales, what do? We credit sales, so 100 in the first case, and in the second case, maybe 150. Oh, sorry, we need to debit cash. Let me add another one, 150. Permit me to avoid the narrations, okay? So at the time that we were balancing these 2 accounts, right, we need to cast the figures or cast the amount. So when we were doing the cast, in the sales account, we had it correct. So 250, right? But maybe when we go to the cash, we had other, people were calling us interruptions. So instead of 250, we ended up casting cash or the figures in cash as 350. So professors, is this an overcast or an undercast? Whoever is ready can tell. Is this an overcast or an undercast? Yeah, Morona.
The overcast.
Overcast, okay. Because it's supposed to be 250 and it's now 350. So we have overstated the balance. Now, if you were to prepare a trial balance, you see that your sales will be at the credit side of or with an amount of 250, while cash will be at the debit side with an amount of what? 350. If you were to balance your trial balance, you see there is a difference, right? A difference of what? 100. So what to do to make your trial balance is for you to now put in the suspense. So we are going to put in the suspense of how much? 100 at the credit side so that our trial balance can agree. Then upon going to do the investigation, you realize that, oh, you have overcast the cash of, say, 106. So I have demonstrated how casting errors can make the trial balance disagree. Now, how do you correct this? How do you correct this? I think I'll give professors the opportunity to share their. How do we correct this? How do we make cash go back to the right balance 250? Yes, professors, rack the brains up, rack the brains up. Yes. Oh, just feel free to attempt. Yes, Portia.
So, since cash is an overcast, first, and also it's also having a debit entry. First, maybe a credit entry of, should I see?
Mm-hmm.
The overcast value to the credit side of the cash account. Then you make a debit entry, like a balance come down. Yes.
Portia, you are introducing balance carry down.
No. Okay, then you rather send that amount to the sales. No.
You started well.
Say, please, you rather send that amount, the overcast amount, to the debit side of the suspense account and the credit side of cash book.
Okay. Let me get more thoughts from other professors. Oh, please, I want more contributions. So, Prof. Nadom. Oh, if you don't talk, I also not talk. At least, let me see a hand up. Yes, Austin.
So please ask for Sheva saying, since the overcast here is 100 and the suspense account is keeping that 100, when we come to the general journal, since cash has a debit balance, we will credit it with 100 and then we will debit the suspense account to the 100.
Okay. So that is true. I just wanted several opinions to see if, you see, the reason why sometimes I ask you to share your view is for me to appreciate that you are getting the concept. It's for no reason. Had it not been that, I can go on and preach all the gospel to you and not bother whether you understand or you are following. But that would be bad teaching. Okay, but feel free to let me know if you want bad teaching. Okay. So, like they have both indicated, we can tell that because of this error, cash is having some 100 cedis sitting at the debit side, which is not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be 250, right? So as a result, suspense is now having a credit of. So if you open your suspense account, that difference in the trial balance, that difference will be at where? The credit side. And this is because of that overcast. So to correct it, we'll see that, okay, cash is having a debit of 350. It's not supposed to be 350. It's supposed to be 250. So to correct it, we'll have to credit cash with 100. Okay, when we credit cash of 100, it's going to remove that balance of 100 from there, that overcast from there. Okay, and the balance will be readjusted to 250. The corresponding entry comes into suspense, which is a debit of 100 cedis, to cancel the suspense from our trial balance, so that we have sales 250 and cash 250. Okay. Now, having appreciated this example, we are saying there's a strategy you can use in getting to correct your casting errors. So this is what I have put down in this table here, that first of all, ascertain the balance on the item that has been overcast or undercast. So the item that has been overcast, does it have a debit balance or a credit balance? So in this case, cash, as we saw here, was having a debit balance and it was overstated or it was overcast. So if you're able to ascertain that balance on the item, then we see that to correct the error, because the item has a debit balance and it has been overstated, you credit that particular item. If the item has a credit balance and it has been overstated, you debit. So you see, for the overcast, if the item has a debit balance, you are going to credit to correct it. If the item has a credit balance, you are going to debit. So the clue I give students is that for overcast, you pass an opposite entry of the balance on the item. But let's look at undercast. If it is an undercast or understatement, then if the item has a debit balance, you will debit. Well, what does it mean? It means that the debit side of that particular item has been reduced. So if you want to restore it, you have to debit. So for the undercast or reductions, if the item has a debit balance, you debit. If the item has a credit balance, you credit. So you'll be seeing examples in your questions like sales was overcast, return invoice was overcast, purchases was undercast. So just determine what has been overcast or undercast and check what balance does this item have, and then apply accordingly the entries to correct these errors. Please, if you have a question, you can ask. Yes, Augustine Apolli.
Sir, please, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, please, I want to know, I want to comment on how the suspense account looks.
The suspense account is a normal account with a debit side and a credit side, right? So depending on where the difference is, if the difference is at the credit side, you put it at the credit side of the suspense account. If the difference was at the debit side, you put it in the debit side of the suspense account. Now, when you go and do the investigations and you see the errors that led to that suspense, and as you can appreciate, at any point when we investigate and find the error, when we correct it, a corresponding entry goes into the suspense account to go and remove the difference. So if you open a typical suspense account, the first thing that comes is the difference in the travel. And the subsequent items will be the errors that you are correcting. Okay, that is coming to remove the difference. That's all. So at the end of correcting all the errors, your suspense account should not have any balance. It should go to zero. Your suspense is a temporal account. It's not supposed to stay in your trial balance or even appear anywhere in your final account. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, please, thank you.
Okay. Is there any further questions? Okay, so let's look at the example I have here. The example I have here is the sales day book was overcast by 650. The sales day book was overcast by 650. So when you read this error, remember the clue I've given you. There has been an overcast. So what has been overcast? And the answer will be what? Sales. So sales has been overcast. Now, what balance does sales have? Sales have a credit balance. So if it has been overcast, so a credit balance that has been overcast, if we want to correct it, what do? We go the opposite. So we'll debit sales and the corresponding credit entry will go to a suspense account. And that's what is shown in the journal I have below here. So let me go down to it. So what do? We debit sales 650 and then we credit suspense 650. Now here, suspense automatically comes in because you know that casting errors will affect what? Suspense, right? Okay. Okay, so there are no questions. Let's continue. So we've dealt with two errors, so single entry and then casting. Okay. Let's go to the third one. The third one is, no, let me let somebody read. I think the gentlemen have done the readings. Let me go to Prof. Josephine. Prof. Josephine, can you read number 3 for us? Prof. Josephine, are you there? Are my professors having network challenges today, or Monday mornings are very, I think Prof. Josephine is not, okay, let me go to Prof. Bridget. Prof. Bridget, can you read error number 3 for us?
I can't read loud. There.
Yes, Bridget.
I said I have surgery. I can't read loud.
Oh, okay. But I can hear you though. But no, don't strain your voice. So let me allow you rest the voice. Sorry about the sore throat. Prof. Eugenia, can you bail us out? Okay, I think I would have to do the reading myself. Okay, so account balances omitted from the list of balances. Account balance omitted from the list of balances. When an item is omitted from the list of balances or trial balance, make an entry as the same as the balance on the omitted item to correct this. So let me explain this. List of balances is simply the trial balance because the trial balance is a list of account balances. So this error, happens when at the time that you are preparing your trial balance, you omit. Okay. In other words, you didn't send one of the account balances there. So let's say, for example, you have cash, you have sales, and let's say you have commission, 3 accounts. The balance on cash is a debit of 500. Sales has a credit of 300. And then commission has a credit of 200. So ordinarily, if you are preparing trial balance from these 3 accounts, you have cash debit of 500. You have on the credit side, sales 300, commission what 200. And that's going to give you a total of what 500 each on both sides. Now, in constructing the trial balance, you brought cash 500. You brought sales credit 300. but you omitted the commission account balance, which means you didn't take it there. That's what it means. That when you were extracting the trial balance, you forgot to add or send one account balance. So here, we forgot to send the commission, the balance on commission. What is going to happen? If we sum our trial balance up, we'll have 500 debits against 300 credits. So again, what will we do? We'll put suspense there to cater for the difference, right? A suspense of 200, so that our trial balance will agree. Then we go and investigate the reason for this suspense of 200. Then we realize that, oh, we didn't send the commission account balance into the trial balance. That's why we happened that. So you see, because of that, we now have a suspense which is keeping a credit of what? 200. So what do we do to correct this error? We'll debit suspense 200 to remove it, and then debit who? Credit who? Commission 200. When we credit commission 200, now we realize that, okay, commission has to come into the picture, 200 credits, and then suspense will go off. Now, if you are not careful, you will get confused to the point that you feel that, oh, but the account is already there, so why don't we go and put it in the account and we have to credit the account? Well, to correct it, so remember, you are passing a journal entry. Okay, so you can't say, I don't know how you are going to say credit the trial balance. No, it doesn't make sense. So instead of crediting the trial balance, you rather credit the item that is in, that particular error. That is why we are crediting the commission. Okay. So anytime you forgot or the bookkeeper omitted an account balance, debit or credit that particular item that was omitted. So if it was sales, you credit sales, right? And debit suspense. If it was cash, depending on what omission, you always have to determine the omission that was made. Then you do the appropriate debit or credit. So that is for number 3. So please, I don't want to ever see in your answers that, like this case, credit the trial balance. No. Use the name of the particular account that was omitted. Let's go and see the next error, which error number 4. So you see, unlike the first type of error, which has unique names, the first errors we had unique names like omission, commission. These ones, they come in statement form, except the single entry and the casting error. But you have to bear and just follow. So number 4, a balance entered on the wrong side of the trial balance. A balance entered on the wrong side of the trial balance. So let me demonstrate this again. So you were entering balances into your trial balance, debit and credit column. So let me use the same cash, 500, and then sales, 300, then commission 200. So this time we are saying the error is such that you entered the balance on the wrong side. So we all know cash is supposed to be at the debit, 500. Sales is supposed to be at the credit, 300. And commission is an income, so it's also supposed to be at the credit. But we entered it at the debit. So what have we done? We have entered an account balance on the wrong side of the trial balance. And so as a result, you are seeing 700 total against what? 300. So to correct this error, we then have to put in the suspense or should I say to make our trial balance agree, we put in the suspense of how much? 400 here to make our trial balance agree. Right? Then we'll have 700, 700. So we go and do investigation and realize that, oh, the commission is not supposed to be at the debit, it's supposed to be at where? The credit. So what do you think we will do to correct this error? Based on what I've said, how would we correct this error? The commission that has been entered on the wrong side of the track. Any attempts? Yes, Augustine, go ahead.
Sir, please, why is a question?
Oh, how can you answer my question with a question? Let's get the answer first, then your question can follow. Unless it is to seek
Sir,
further clarification on what I said.
yes, please.
Okay, so go ahead.
Sir, please, I don't know like which the number 4, number 5.
We are looking at number 4.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear me say number 5? Then that was an error. We are looking at number 4. So now that you've sought your clarification, can you provide an answer to my question?
Sir, please, what was the question again?
Okay. Do you mean you are not following what I'm saying?
Sir, please, like I was looking at the number 5 perspective, so I like.
Why would you be looking at number 5 when your teacher is reading number 4? Why would you do that? Prof. Augustine are calling. So unfortunately, I may not be able to repeat the question again because it turns out you were not following what I was saying, right? So I'll give you that benefit of that. Yes. Anyway, let me continue since today I don't know, professors are not willing to contribute. No problem. I'll teach and finish. So if you have entered a balance on the wrong side of an account, that's fine. But how would you correct it? If you look at the analysis I've done, this commission is not supposed to be here, right? It's supposed to be at the credit side. Now, to correct it, we cannot come and just cancel and cancel. No, we need to pass a double entry. So as it stands now, commission is having a debit, which is not supposed to be the case. It should be a credit. So it is very right for us to double the figure because commission is supposed to have a credit, but as it stands now, we put it at the debit side, 200. Okay, so it means that we need to double the figure, 200, to make it 400, so that we will credit commission 400, and immediately you credit commission 400. If you are to redraft your trial balance, you appreciate that commission will now come to the credit side, 200. The corresponding entry will go into 400 being debited to the suspense account, which was keeping the 400 difference at the credit side. So we will debit suspense 400 and then we will credit commission 400. And when we do that, you see that the suspense account will go off, okay, because it will be rendered 0. The account will go off to 0. So in the new trial balance, there will be no suspense. And then what is happening to commission? Commission will now have a credit balance of what? 200. And our total will come back to 500 against 500. So that is to say, anytime you put a balance on the wrong side of a trial balance, you need to double the figure and pass the necessary entry. So this is more or less like similar to the error of complete reversal, where you double the figure and pass the entries. Okay. Let's go to error number 5. Error number 5. So what is error number 5? Error number 5 says that an entry in the books of original entry has been recorded at the wrong side, has been recorded at the wrong side of the correct account. So let me demonstrate this. Now we all know the books of original entry, which is the day books. So we are saying, you remember when you prepare your day books, after that you have to post to the account. So all the entries we make in the sales day book, we post them to the sales ledger. So we are saying that at the time that you were doing the posting, you may have recorded it at the wrong side. So for example, if we have a sales day book, right? Sales day book. Let me just use one transaction to demonstrate. So you have your date, details, and amount, right? So let's say on a particular date, we sold goods to Kofi maybe on 1st February or whatever, right? So we had Kofi in our sales table, an amount of 100 cedis. So you recall that if this is the only transaction, at the end of the day, you have to get your totals. And the total will be 100 cedis, which is transferred to sales account, right? Transferred to sales account in the general ledger. So if you are doing the posting, first of all, you go to the sales ledger, right? And then you open Kofi's account. And what do we do to Kofi's account? We are going to debit Kofi. So let's say we did the debit correctly, 100. The corresponding credit is what goes into the general ledger, the general ledger. In this case, the sales account, right? The total goes there, sales account. And we are supposed to credit sales. But we made a mistake in this posting. We went to debit what? Sales. So you see, because of this, when you create your trial balance, you have a debit of 200 against a credit of 0. And again, you have to introduce suspense to balance it off. So you come and investigate and realize that, oh, when you were posting from the day book, from the original book of entry to the account, you recorded the sales on the wrong side of sales. So how would you correct it? In this case, you would have to credit sales how much? 200. You have to double the figure again, 200. So that if you credit sales 200, right, it is going to erase the 100 at the debit and put the 100 at the credit side. And then the corresponding entry goes to clear the suspense account from your travel. So this error 5 and 4 are similar in terms of their correction. You have to double the amount. And see, all of them lead us to putting the entry on the wrong, on the wrong side. So that is for this particular error. Please, any question? Now, if you are wondering how these are going to manifest in your questions or illustrations, the errors will just be stated with amounts, and then you have to be able to do the analysis. That, okay, in this error, they made a mistake when they were posting to the account, or they made an error when they were preparing the trial balance, or they made a single entry error, or they did an overcast, or they did an undercast. That's why it's important that you appreciate these explanations. Yes, Austin, go ahead.
Sir, please. I didn't get what you were saying. The error we corrected, right? So I understand, but I want you to go over what you said about what it will do in the trial balance. Like, how will it mess up the trial balance? I want to hear that part again.
Yes, Austin, sorry, I also lost you there. Can you repeat your question? Hello, Austin. Of Austin Apollo. Okay, I think maybe sometimes because of the network, you are not able to hear what I say or something. But if that is the case, you have to draw my attention to repeat that point. So, Austin, if you can hear me, can you repeat your question?
Davis, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I was saying that this error that you explained, it will cause though it will cause a difference in the trial balance. But I missed what you were saying on how it will create a difference, because when I was doing it over here, I didn't see how it created a difference. I wanted you to go over that part again.
Okay. Okay, so this is what I did. I first of all created a book of original entry, and I know we all believe or we remember books of entries, day books, right? So we are saying that after preparing the day books, you post them to the ledger account, right? So if, for example, you have prepared your sales day book, you have to post the individual transactions to the customers to the sales ledger. And I believe we did these things previous times. Right? Now, if you do the posting, you see the individual goes to the sales ledger, the total also goes to the general ledger. And I'm saying that we did the posting, but in the sales account, we are supposed to credit, but what have we done here? We have gone to debit the transaction in sales. So what have we done? And let's follow the error. An entry in the day book or in the original entry has been recorded at the wrong side of the account. So this entry in the sales day book, which is the total sales, we recorded it at the wrong side of sales account. That's the error. Now, if you were to draw a trial balance, this is what is going to happen. I don't know how you drew your trial balance, but then you have sales. How much is in your sales account because of your posting or your wrong entry? You have sales at the debit of 100, because of that error. And then you have Kofi. What balance do you have in Kofi's account? Another debit of what? 100. So when you do the totals, you have a debit of 200 against a credit of what? 0. But there's nothing here. So to make it balance, you introduce your suspense, right? And this suspense will go to the credit side. How much? 200 to make your trial balance agree. Then you go and do investigations why this suspense is here. Then you realize that, oh, when you were posting from the original book or the sales day book to the account, you put it at the wrong side. So because of that, you now have a suspense account which is holding 200 at a credit. So what do? It has to go off. And then you also need to make your sales account have a credit and not a debit. So you would agree with it that the 100 cedis here would have to double it and credit sales 200 and debit suspense 200. And when we do that, suspense account will now go 0. Okay, will now go 0. And the sales will move from the debit to the credit of what? 100. Making our trial balance now agree 100, 100 without any suspense. Professor, did that make some sense to you? Yeah. So let me use the other side so that maybe you appreciate it better. So let me do some gymnastics here. So let's say that the same scenario, right? The same scenario. We have prepared our sales day. We are doing the postings. Now, when we're posting in the sales account, we posted correctly. So you have 100 credited here in the general ledger, right? But when we're posting to Kofi's account, Kofi is a debtor. So we're supposed to debit Kofi, and then we came to credit Kofi. So what have we done? We have posted to the wrong side of the account from the original entry or from the day book. So you see that if we construct a trial balance, we are going to have sales account 100. We'll have sales account 100 at the credit. And Kofi's account too will be what? 100 at the credit, because based on the entry that we did, Kofi is having a credit. So if you have to do your total, you have 200 against 0 here. So to make it balance, we introduce suspense account with a difference of 200. So here you see that the suspense account will be what? Debited. So suspense has been debited with a difference of 200. So you go and do the investigation, then you realize that, oh, Kofi is supposed to be debited and not credited. So if you come to Kofi and you want to debit Kofi 100, you have to double the figure here to 200. So you debit Kofi 200 and credit suspense 200. And that would correct the error. Because immediately you do that, suspense will go off. So suspense will now go off your trial balance. There will be nothing like suspense. And then Kofi will not have a credit balance, but will have what? A debit balance of 100. Making your new trial balance totals being 100, 100. So anytime you read an error and you do the analysis and you see that when they were posting from the day book to the account, they put it at the wrong side. This is how you analyze to correct it. So here in correcting, we are going to debit Kofi 100 and credit sales. We are going to debit Kofi 200 and credit suspense 200. Okay. If any of you still has a question on this one, go ahead and answer. Yes, Augustine.
Sir, please, I still don't get it.
Okay, so which particular one is confusing you?
Like the whole like the question, like that correction, the question 5, like I don't get it at all. That's the whole.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat the whole process again for the last time.
Okay.
Follow me, and then at any point where you are not getting it, pause me and ask your question. Don't let me finish all before you say, I still don't get it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. So I started by saying that if you read the error, it says an entry in a books of original entry. What is a book of original entry? A day book. So an entry we made in a day book has been recorded at the wrong side of the account or the correct account. So the explanation is that when you prepare your day book, you have to post to the ledgers. And you remember we prepared sales day book, purchases day book, return invoice, return outvoice, petty cash book, cash book. And when we are done, we were posting them to their respective ledgers in the T account. So I'm using an example here that we have prepared the sales day book. And you know a sales day book, it records credit sales. So the example I gave was maybe we sold goods to Kofi on credit, 100 cedis. If you are recording this in your sales day book, this is how it will look like, right? You put the date, the narration Kofi, and the amount involved, 100. If that is the only transaction, then you also do your total. Remember, anytime we finish preparing the sales day book, we get the total. And the total represented total credit sales, which we posted to the sales account in the general ledger. Right? Now, I went ahead to do the posting. So if we were posting the entries in this sales day book, we'll go to the sales ledger and then we'll open Kofi's account. And what are we going to do? We'll debit Kofi 100. That's the right thing to do. And then we'll go to the general ledger, open sales account, and credit sales 100. Okay, do you agree to that point?
Yes, sir.
So let me use the right thing here. So if this is our sales day book and we are doing the posting, we'll post Kofi to the sales ledger, Kofi, debit Kofi 100. Because if you sell goods to Kofi, you debit Kofi. And then the total will also go to the general ledger, sales account, credit. Now, this is what we know to be the right thing. And I'm saying that if an error should occur, it will come in this form, that when you were posting from the day book to the ledger, you entered it on the wrong side of account. So in this example, I edited it and said that we were supposed to debit Kofi if we are posting from the day book to Kofi's account, but we came here and we credited Kofi. So what have we done? We have recorded an entry from the day book, from the original book of entry, at the wrong side of the account. Kofi's account is supposed to be debited if you are posting from the sales day. But what did we do? We came to credit. So do you now agree that there is an error?
Yes, sir.
And the error is because we have recorded the entry at the wrong side. It's not supposed to be at the credits. It's supposed to be at the debits. So we have made the error by putting it at the wrong side of the account. So I went ahead to say that if we go ahead to prepare our trial balance for this error, you see that Kofi would have a credit of what? 100, isn't it? And then the sales account will also have a credit of 100. And so when you balance your trial balance, you would have 200 at the credits, and the debit side will be 0. So to make your trial balance agree, you are going to put a temporal account, that's the suspense account. Okay, the suspense account. And when you introduce your suspense account here, the difference is at the debit side. So your suspense account will come at 200 here. Let me erase the sales. Okay. So sales is 100 here, making the total 200 against 0. So we introduce suspense account, right, to balance the trial balance, so that we now have a total of 200 at the debit and 200 at the credit. So this is what we'll do. Then we go and investigate, and we find out that, oh, when we were posting from the day book, from the book of original entry, when we were posting, we recorded on the wrong side of Kofi's account. So then how do we correct this error? So look at Kofi. This 100 is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be at the debit side. So what do you do to do that? You'd only have to double the figure 200, right? Augustine, you appreciate that, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you double the 100, now becomes 200. You debit Kofi 200. And the corresponding credit entry will go to where? Suspense account. And I open the suspense account for you to appreciate that. If you open the suspense account, the difference is at the debit side. So in your suspense account, the debit is here 200. So if you debit Kofi 200 and you credit suspense 200, the error will be gone. Because now suspense will have 0. Okay? So this suspense will go off our books. And then Kofi's account will now have a debit balance. Because if you strike the difference, you now have Kofi a debit of what? 100. And no more a credit of 100. And then your trial balance total will now be a debit of 100 against a credit of what? 100. So this is the point I was making. Did you miss any point again?
Yes, sir.
What point did you miss again?
Sir, please, I didn't miss any point.
So, Augustine, it means that when I am going to follow the thing step by step, if I miss you, tell me to go back there. Okay, then you appreciate better. But thanks for your question. I really appreciate it, because some people are not talking, but I think the explanation to your query has benefited some people too. Okay. Any further questions? Somebody is giving thumbs up there. For sure. Prof. Zoe, are we okay? Are we good so far?
Yes, please.
Okay. You see, let me tell you, this correction of error topic is not difficult. It's just a little technical. And if you don't follow through, you get lost, totally lost. And trust me, it will take some huge efforts to bring you back. So that is why I'm always inquiring. Are you sure you are okay? Do you have a question? Because as you ask your question and I'm explaining further, then you get the concept better. If you don't do that and I finish the topic and we start solving the illustration, you run away. Okay. Let's see if we have further errors to correct under this type of error. And in fact, this type of error is the one that creates a lot of confusion with students. That's the errors that affect the suspense account. As for the first one, you can tell whether it is omission, commission, or whatever, but this one, It is scattered across. I have been able to get a few examples of the errors based on the frequency with which they appear in your final exams. Okay. So feel free to ask questions. Okay. So we saw how many? Five of them. Right? 5 of them. So in order to get my students to appreciate, let's do some summaries here. So we've seen the errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. The first error that we saw is the single entry. Then we went to the casting errors. Under the casting, we saw that there can be overcast and what? Undercast. Right? Casting errors, overcast. Then the third one was omission or omitting, let me use omitting a balance or an account balance from the trial balance. Sometimes you will not write trial balance, you will write list of balances. It's the same thing. When you see list of balances, it's the same as the trial balance. Okay. Then the fourth one was posting a balance to the wrong side of the trial balance. And then the last one was posting to the wrong side of an account. Okay, and that happens when you are doing your postings from your day books or from your books of original entry. Okay, so when you are doing the postings, you posted to the wrong side of the account. So these are the 5 errors we have seen under the errors that affect. Trust me, there are several errors, but if you get these errors I've taken you through, then you can apply the analysis strategy to any other error and you can correct any accounting error that may come your way. So this is what I'm giving my professors as summaries. The errors that affect the that do not affect the agreement of the trial balance. We saw how many? 7 of them, right? Omission, commission, principal, duplication. And then for errors that affect, I've taken you through 5. Okay, these 5, you may be seeing them in your examinations or when you start solving past questions, especially the single entry and the casting error. They are very much, and then omitting a balance, in fact, all the 5 for this one, all the 5. The first one, I gave you a hint on the common ones that appear: omission, principal, and original entry, right? And omission, they are more prevalent in your questions. So take note of this. So if for some reason you didn't get a particular explanation well, please go and watch the video. Very important. Okay. So we can now begin to solve illustrations. But today, I will not attempt that because I may end up confusing. So I'll just go through a question with you. We'll discuss the question and see if we can possibly determine the type of error, okay, in that question. Then maybe in our next meeting, we'll start solving examples. So I have this question. It's a WASSCE question, November 2010. Please follow as I read, and then I'll begin asking questions, which if my professors answers correctly, I'll be so happy. Or some 3 people are off because of network. Let me see. Augustine is gone. Network. And then okay, so the bookkeeping records of Sesei Enterprise. were unable to agree with the trial balance totals. The credit side exceeded the debit side by 500. So they are saying that the trial balance did not agree. On thorough examination, they've given the difference, right? 500, difference of 500. On thorough examination, the following errors were detected. 1. The purchase day book has been undercast by 37,500. Please, based on our discussion so far, what error is this? Purchase day book has been undercast. In fact, I'll answer this one myself. This is a casting error, specifically an undercast. So if you remember how to deal with an undercast, you can easily correct this error. Right? And what did we say? We said that if it's an undercast, first, what is the thing that has been undercast? Purchases. And purchases has what balance? Debit. So if purchases has been undercast and want to correct it, we'll debit purchases and credit suspense, because we know casting errors will affect suspense. So a corresponding entry will go into suspense. Okay. Number 2, goods purchased from Tozo amounting to 92,500 was entered at the credit side of Tozo's account as 79,000. We purchased goods from Tozo, 92,500. This was entered at the credit side of Tozo's account as 79,000. What is this? So, for you to appreciate what this error is, you have to follow through the transaction. Okay. So these are goods purchased from Tozo. If you purchase goods from Tozo, professors, what are you supposed to do? You debit to and credit to. If you purchase goods from Tozo. Yes, Portia.
Sir, please, you credit Tozo and debit purchases.
Good. So we are going to, so I'm using the green pen to tell you what was the right thing to do. So Tozo and purchases. So we were supposed to debit purchases with how much? 92,500. That's the value there. And then credit Tozo 92,500. This is the right thing that should have been done. But what happened? So let me take my red pen and see the error that happened. The error that happened is that it was entered at the credit of Tozo. It was entered at the credit of Tozo. Some of you are laughing at how I'm pronouncing Tozo. It was entered at the credit side of Tozo as 79,000. That was the error. Okay, so you see that they are silent about the purchases. If they are silent about the other account, it means in that account they didn't do any mistake. Right? So let me do that here too, so that professors will appreciate. So it means that for the purchases there, they had it correct, right? So I'm using green pen. For the purchases, they did the right thing, 92,700. That's why the error did not mention anything about it. So if the error doesn't mention anything about the other account, don't go and worry yourself and bring it back. Okay. So now the error is in Tozo's account. How do we correct this error? Or what type of error are you seeing here? What I am seeing is that Tozo's account should have been credited with 92,500. But what did we do? We have understated it. So there is also a casting error. We have undercast Tozo's credits of 92,500 as 79,200. And what is the undercast? Let's find the difference. 92,500 minus 79,000. Yes, portion.
Service is to be 13,500.
So 13,500. So it means that we have understated Tozo's credits by 13,500. So if you go to the casting error, undercast, right? What have you undercast? The credits of Tozo. So if you want to correct it, you are going to credit Tozo, because you remember for the undercast, if it's credit, you credit. If it's debit, you debit. It is the overcast that you go the opposite way. So here we have to credit Tozo 13,500, and the corresponding entry will go to where? Suspense account. Okay. Yeah. I know that some of you are confused, but my worry is the fact that you are not asking for your confusion to be cleared. That's my worry. Or is your silence suggesting to me that you understand whatever I'm saying? Or you go and watch the video again. Okay. I'll give you the benefit of doubt as your silence meaning that you understand. So you see, when you see the error, right, you always have to determine what the right thing is. That's why I use green pen here. And then you come and look at what the error is. Then you can make better analysis. Let's go to the third one. It says, a check of 80,000 received from Gladys, a debtor, and paid into the bank account has been dishonored. Has been dishonored. So a check has been dishonored. Now, nothing concerning the dishonored check has been entered in the books. In the books. What type of error is this? Or what error is this? This one, if you don't get it, I'll close today's lesson. Has not been entered in the books. In the books. No, Portia, I'm not asking you. Because I know. Has not been entered in the books. If I don't get another professor apart besides Portia to answer this correctly, I'm sorry, I'll end today's class in sorrow and sadness because my professors have failed me. Please, nobody should chat Portia to answer privately so that I come and tell me the answer. Nothing concerning the dishonored check has been entered in the books. Okay, Aseda is saying something here. Oh, thank you, Aseda. Thank you. You did it privately, and that's nice. Thank you. Aseda has answered me correctly, but I still want another person. Or I'm being greedy. Austin Akoli. What error is this based on all that we have discussed so far? Nothing about the dishonored check has been entered in the books. Oh my God. The way I'm repeating that line, you are not catching that. Austin.
Sir, please. It's an error of omission.
Error of omission. Thank you very much. Thank you. Error of omission. You remember when we discussed that error, we said this error occurs when the transaction is not recorded in the books. That's why I was repeating that line. So if nothing has been entered in the books, it means it's an error of what? Omission. And you know how to correct error of omission, right? You pass the double entry. So here you have to know what transaction is there at all. Dishonored check. And professors, when a check is dishonored, who do you debit, who do you credit? See, double entry is coming to haunt you again. Yes, Portia.
Sir, please, we'll debit bank and we'll credit others.
Portia, if you were in a real life business right now, you would have given your auditors the opportunity to query you for this entry. So if a check is dishonored, you have rather committed an error of complete reversal. So instead of you debiting the bank, you credit the bank, and then you debit the customer. Okay. Why?
Okay.
Because let me take you through that, because it's going to appear. I think I'll give you summaries of transactions that are highly used in this correction of error, so that you go and sharpen your skills around it. This dishonored check, discount allowed, discount received, return inwards, return outwards. As for sales purchases, I'm sure you are very much comfortable. So I'll add all those summaries to you, so that you can sharpen your skills with the double entry. So you see, dishonored check, how does it happen? First, you receive a check from your customer, right? If you receive a check from your customer, what you do is you credit the customer and you debit your bank, because you have received check. Okay, so anytime we receive check, let me be fast. I think the time is almost. When you receive the check, you open bank, right, and debit it. So let's say, for example, 200, because money is coming, check is coming, so you debit bank, and then you credit the customer, right? So let's say Kofi. So this is the first entry you make when you receive the check. Now, if you take it to the bank and the bank says, well, this check we cannot pay, so they dishonor it, then it means you have to reverse this receipt. So in reversing, what will you do? You will credit your bank with the dishonored check. So let me use DC for the dishonored check. And you debit Kofi with the dishonored check of 200. What does it mean, or what have you done? You have cancelled the earlier transaction that you have received a check. So a dishonored check transaction is for you to reverse. That is why you credit bank and then you debit the customer. So put this at the bottom of your brain. It will come in handy. So dishonored check, you credit bank, you debit the customer. It will never change. Even if you go to Jupiter, you still credit bank and debit the customer. Okay. Okay, now let's look at the 4. The 4 says an item of 4,000 entered in the sales return journal. Sales return journal, that's the return invoice journal, has been posted to the debit side of Kofi, who returned the goods. So you see, this is the error where when you were doing the postings from the day books, you entered on the wrong side, because if Kofi returns goods to the business, we don't debit Kofi, we credit Kofi. Okay, profs, I think I'll pause here, but I know and I appreciate, trust me, when I was a student, this topic gave me some real serious problems. I had to sit down, review the concepts, look at some of the things my teacher said, do analysis on my own before I appreciated it better. Okay. But I'm here. If you are doing the analysis and you are still not getting, ask me. I'll clarify for you. So today, I think I've been able to confuse some of you. Some of you are also, I'm sure, you appreciated the point very well. But we are here to help each other, right? So I'll try to share this video as quickly as possible so that you can review it. Thursday, or is it Friday? Yes, we have accounting Friday. Please prepare for a class test, which is going to be multiple choice. We're going to do it via Google Forms. Okay, so I'm looking at giving you some 50 possible questions on what we have done so far about correction errors and suspense accounts. Okay. So prep for that. Any queries, any question before we conclude today's lesson? Okay. So do have a great day. Thank you very much. I'll see you when I see you. Some people are still owing me their first assignment. I'm yet to mark. But if you know you owe me, quickly go and do it. I don't want to give you 0. Okay, so bye-bye.
Bye.